Hey shooters, Patrick Kelley here, bringing a lot of knowledge, I hope, to you guys from the home of the Superstition Mountain Mystery 3-Gun 2021. Great match, we just finished up, and I got a great crew here that wants to share with you how to get into 3-gun, what to do when you become a 3-gunner, some tips and tricks to be a good 3-gunner, and the equipment that I use and how I go about setting myself up for a good performance at any 3-gun match across the country. Let's get started. Let's do a little talk about zeroing. In the simplest terms, especially with the RT6, there's a 300-yard stadia line in there, a horizontal cross mark. I zero my rifle for that line. Then I go backwards from there, if you will. So I zero at 300 with the 300-yard hash mark. Then I'll shoot it at 100 yards to see where my bullet impacts relative to the center of the scope, the dot in the center. And almost universally, it's with an inch or two one way or the other. And 100-yard targets, an inch or two one way or the other, doesn't make much difference. On a 300, a 400, a 500, a 600-yard target, a couple inches translates into a big error. So make sure you have your 300 on with almost any of the Burris products, and you are squared away. In fact, almost any quality rifle optic will have a 300-yard BDC line. Use that bullet drop compensating line, zero at 300. So beyond that, we talk about bore offset. So if you look at the rifle, there's the bore, there's the sight line. And you notice there's a gap between the two. It's about 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches, depending on your setup. So since this barrel is actually slightly pointing up and the scope is looking down, the bullet is going to cross the line of sight, which is down your scope, at some point and then cross back into it in trajectory. It has an arc, so it's going to cross through what you see, go above your line of sight and back down in. So if you have a 300-yard zero, it basically crosses about 50 yards and then lands back in about 300 yards. But let's say we're shooting much closer. Well, the closer we are to the muzzle, the paper you're going to shoot at, or the target you're going to shoot at, that offset is still present. So what that means is, at a target downrange, if I want to shoot the brown target above the white target, and the white target's a penalty target, I need to hold high and recognize that the bullet is going to be lower than what I'm looking at. So if I put my dot right where I want, 1 inch above the white, and I pull the trigger, the bullet's going to hit the penalty target, because the barrel and bore are offset. That's what offset means. So you have to recognize that going in. Now, yes, you can zero it that way, but you zero it for 7 yards, you're going to have a ridiculous rainbow trajectory that you won't be able to deal with. So 50 and 300 are my base settings, and then I make sure my zero is actually at 300 on the 300-yard line, and then bore offset is the difference between what you look at and what the muzzle's looking at. So on close targets, you're going to have to physically, on your own, offset or compensate for the difference between this line of sight and the bore's line of sight in order to have the bullets go where you ask them to. Okay, here we are at the target. Let's take a look at this. See the holes right here? Some poor unfortunate really didn't recognize the importance of recognizing offset. Let me show you physically what offset is. There's the muzzle, right? At the hole. There's still the muzzle. There's the barrel. There's the barrel. The scope is this much higher. So if you aimed right here, that bullet hit right there. So if you want it to hit in the brown, you need to have this aiming up here. So if that was up here, that's where the hole would appear. That is bore offset at ranges that are closer than the first intersection between the scope and the barrel as the bullet rises in trajectory before it crests. So at the first point of intersection, everything before that, there's going to be an offset between the barrel and the scope. That is bore offset. Very important and critical element of shooting is zeroing. I spend more time zeroing all my guns than I actually do practicing, because if a good zero, the fundamentals will take over and you'll get your hits. But if your gun's not zeroed, you're just poking holes in the air, hoping for the best. And hope isn't a good way to play the game. Hey shooters, I hope you enjoyed the information we've offered for you. If you have a question, naturally comment below. Like, subscribe, and share. That way everyone gets the benefit of the information we're handing out to you. Yeah, 12 gauge!